Now, there we go. There we go. Now we're unmuted.
Here we go.
Didn't have ad read, so it changes how the program worked. I had to try to
Oh,
get by it real quick.
sure.
Kind of
Right.
psyched me out there for a second. I kept trying to hit start and it wouldn't start. I'm like, why? And it's like, oh, because it's set up to stop recording on this
All
screen.
right.
I have it start on black screen, go through everything we need to do, and then at the end, when I cue the outro, it goes back to black screen and shuts everything down.
All stuff
I already
you
went
don't
too nerd.
see on this side of YouTube.
I already went too nerd.
Yep. You're that side of YouTube. I do not see that part.
Well, cheers, buddy.
Hey,
Good to see you
so
again.
good to see you. We're still alive. I've been thinking about that a lot. Seeing even some random person that you see on the bus or whatever, like still alive.
Oh,
Right on.
post-pandemic.
Just a
Yeah, now that we're getting back out
a
there.
light positivity, but it's
You're
like,
still working from home. You have an interesting job. Usually either guys don't have day jobs because
Sure.
they're musicians or
Yeah.
comedians or whatever, or their day jobs, if they have any, are either part-time or just honestly boring, right? So we
Right.
just don't talk about them. You actually have a super interesting job. So you're an editor or a press release editor. So you kind of, the best way I've tried to explain it to people when they're like, so who's he? What's he doing?
Sure.
Coming? And I'm like, so he like the way I've explained it, and correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'd love,
You
I'd love
essentially-
to hear people try to
You
describe it.
you essentially proofread the news before it actually goes out.
That is a big part of my job. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
What else?
So we
does it
see,
entail?
We see press releases from companies, small and before you see them or before the media sees them, and we make sure it looks better. We're not exactly recrafting a message or anything. Their marketing job, but we're there to catch that one thing you missed. You looked at the press release too many times that blind.
So sometimes it's simple typos. Sometimes it's egregious ones,
correct.
like White House press briefing mispronounce or misspelling Hamas,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like weird. It's weird shit.
Yeah.
Like the stuff that
But we see it before
people like me don't think about. You know.
Yep.
And it was so funny because I was like trying to explain, and I was like, I've hung out with him, and like something will pop up on screen or something will show up somewhere, and it'll be like, oh, that's misspelled. Oh, they missed an apostrophe. Oh, they
Yeah.
added the apostrophe in the wrong spot.
Yeah.
And he does it so quick, it's kind of scary. And today it was hilarious because like as I was typing, you were like, add an L. You missed an L.
Yeah. Sorry. I don't know.
Your brain ticks and works a very interesting way. The attention to
Yeah.
detail
Yeah.
is something that, like, it's one of those jobs where I was like, oh, I could never do that.
Sure. I mean, I think you could. A lot of people do.
Maybe with enough
it's
training.
A lot of basic grammar rules and stuff that we're looking for. And a lot of it's because people are rewriting things so many times within the same document that all of a sudden you changed something from singular to plural. It's like business to businesses.
So what's the
but you
intent?
didn't
Why would
conjugate.
people hire your company or you to do this job? Is it to prevent
Well,
them from
that's
looking like
only
an
one
idiot or an
piece.
asshole?
That's just one piece of the job. So we're that final proofread, but we all basically categorize it for the internet. And so
Explain that. What the fuck does that mean?
so there's 100,000 plus media points out there all over the world. Press release organization. But all press release have relationships with those different media points and say, will you receive our news? Yes or no. They might not have interest in it, depending on what we have available, or we have business news available. In most press releases are going to have that. Some don't. Some have focus on just baby products, men's, that they focus, saying that there's only so many media points that write something like that. So we take that news, we read it, and then we categorize it. News. And they tell us where they want to send it, and we send it to those geographic regions. It can be worldwide, and we can myriad languages and
Stay really close to that.
Sure.
You're so soft spoken.
Sure,
I was
sure.
worried about this beforehand. Sorry,
Yes,
guys. I'll be
no.
on. I promise I'll be on him. Don't yell at us.
Okay. But
Don't yell at us.
But yes, it's a very detailed process after that does involve reading the entire press release and making sure the right people receive the news and not just everybody receiving the news.
Gotcha. Okay.
So there's a whole like coding aspect behind the scenes that's going on. Media points get it that are supposed to.
And you started a Instagram page, or it started off. I don't know if you started a formal page, but
No.
you started like making collage posts of these typos and errors.
Yeah.
And it's hilarious because some of them I've had to look at 2 or 3, 4 times before I've realized like, oh, now I see the mistake.
Yeah.
But they're pretty funny. Like they're sneaky little inside.
Yeah.
It's really niche. I get it. It's kind of weird.
Yeah. That's why
But-
I haven't started a whole page about it, because I don't know how many people really care, but it's kind of a funny jab in the sides of these, especially big news
Right.
organizations who would probably tell you they haven't had it at least a week or something like that. And it's
So that's
like,
my
oh,
question. So do
5 minutes ago.
those big news organizations and shit, do they try to do all that in-house?
Yeah. So that's kind of my main thing. Is it's pretty clear to me that a lot of those cryon lower thirds on news are just graphic designers, and there's no actual writer involved. It's like a person who is into the news but is a graphic designer, and there isn't an editor saying like, okay, show me the text before you put it on screen.
Right.
And I don't know. Some of it's just trying to be.
It seems like that would
instantaneous.
almost immediately fall to the producer.
Right.
But they're producing.
Right.
They're not an editor.
Right.
There's a reason you exist in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of my bigger point by posting that stuff is, hey, I'm not the graphic designer. I'm not the producer. Why am I seeing this stuff? And you're a giant like CNN or something like that. Like, you're a huge company. You should have an editor just standing there looking at it before they put it on screen. Like, just before they click that button, let an editor read the 7 words you're about to put up there.
I think it's the same reason. Okay, so like Journey, here's a great example. Journey's a band everybody either loves or hates, but everyone knows them.
Yep.
And no one can argue with how successful they were.
Right. There's no way.
They have that song, Any Way You Want It,
Mm-hmm.
right? Okay, well, the second, like the way they end those verses. Okay, here's what's going on. This is what fucks with me.
Mm-hmm.
So, in one of the verses, he's like, all night, all every night. And it's like, okay, that's a little weak. It's a little lazy, but it works.
Yeah.
And then the next line is, hold tight, oh baby, hold tight.
We love it. We love Steve Perry.
Dude, I'm sorry. Someone.
We
There
love
There was so many people involved. Band members, engineers, producers,
like, yes,
managers.
yes, that's it, Steve.
Somebody.
That's it.
That's the one. That's
it.
the one. When he was like, oh, baby, hold tight. They're like, yep, that's the one. Nailed it. All right, moving on. Somebody.
That's part of why they're successful,
somebody
though. They're
had
an
to
emotional band. It was
oh, baby, hold tight. Somebody had
yeah.
to slow down and just go, wait a minute. There's a better way to word this.
Right. No.
They needed it. They needed a you. Basically, is what my point is that's what I think the version of what they're doing, and why I noticed that, and I make fun of that lyric.
Yeah.
No one else notices it. Everyone else just sings along and goes along with the show. You notice those things.
It's the vocal craft.
You
though,
notice
too.
those things in the news and press, and
Sure.
like I noticed
Yeah.
these weird
Yeah.
little things. Like, wait a minute. How did this slip through the cracks?
Yeah. It just sounded good. It sounded
It
good.
actually doesn't. Oh, baby, hold tight.
No, not lyrically, but vocally. It's a interesting.
They had a melody predefined, and they just randomly shoved in words there, and he just sang them.
Yeah.
Whether he wrote them or not, I don't know, but that was not a good choice, and somebody
him.
should have said no. Oh, bless his heart.
Bless Journey. Bless him.
Have you
Into it.
have you heard the new Journey with the new dude
I
who's
haven't heard
as
that stuff.
good-
I'm aware of it.
as good, if not better, than the original Steve Perry?
Yeah.
Fucking crazy, man.
And he's like Filipino or something.
Something like that, yeah. He was in a tribute
awesome.
band. Same thing with Allison Chains, the dude who's
Yeah.
replacing. Well, you replaced him a long time ago.
Yeah.
Lane Staley. He's as good, if not better, than Lane Staley. It's
Yeah.
like, wow, man.
It's just such a weird thing that Lane didn't write those lyrics. The way they bleed out of his vocal cords feels like they're his, but they are.
You know, another band like that is Seven Dust.
Oh, really?
Morgan actually writes all the vocals that
Oh.
Lejean sings. I don't know if he
Yeah.
writes the melodies too, but I know
Sure.
he writes the lyrics, or vice versa. He writes all the melodies and doesn't. I don't know, or both. I just know
That's interesting. Yeah.
there's a lot of those bands like that. You'd be real surprised.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just such a man, Lane just seems to live those I mean, to a fault, clearly, but it seems like they're his words, but they're not. And it's such a mind blowing thing still to me to listen to Lane just like ache out his and just no writer credit for Lane on all those songs. But I love Allison Chains. I don't mean to put
I
it
have an
down.
immense amount of respect for Allison Chains. I have a deep appreciation for them as musicians and songwriters. Even.
Yeah.
I do not call myself. I don't go as far as calling myself a fan of Allison
Sure,
Chains because there's certain songs of theirs I love,
Sure.
but they were so overplayed
Oh, sure.
at such a time in my life where certain songs became even some of their best songs became annoying.
Ooh.
And
Yeah.
then there's that weird dark vibe of like heroin inspired music and artists
Yeah.
that are rarely in my like, oh yeah, I'm feeling this.
Sure.
But then I also have openly admitted multiple times, sometimes I'm just not ready. Like I'll listen to a band my whole life and then all of a sudden I'm 30 and I'm like, ooh, wow, holy shit, I'm really into this.
Yeah.
Like I've known these songs. I could literally
Right.
sit down at a drum set and jam with a band playing these songs. I know these songs. Never liked them. And then all of a sudden one day
Right.
I'm in the mood for this sound.
Sure.
The most recent one that's happened to is Jimi Hendrix. And then I'm just now going through like another Tool phase. Like I've listened to
What
Tool and
era
been a
of
fan of
Jimmy
Tools.
you listen to?
Just really honestly kind of any of it.
Oh,
Like
cool.
it's because it's more understanding now, like because again I've always known that music,
right.
but now when I listen to it I'm like, oh, wow, I can't believe I didn't really hear this or appreciate or understand what he was doing here. Just like I said, Jimi Hendrix. I'm going back through another Tool phase, which I was been into Tool long as Tool's been around, basically. You know,
Yeah.
like I remember when Sober came out, MTV when I was a child.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like they're nothing new. I've always been into them, but for some reason they're scratching the itch again. Weird. I can't explain it, man. I really can't.
What gets me constantly is looking at some of those like pivotal 90s albums and looking how old these bands were that when they made these songs that still timeless. Cranberries are a great example. Like Zombie was written 322. These bands writing these like epic songs such a young age and like being able to like ride this song into their like as they grow up and probably pull their own new meanings from what they wrote then. And we all pull new meanings. I love digging back through my favorite stuff from when I was younger and any age, just to re-listen to those lyrics and kind of see how you interpret
It's
them
just
now.
it's
and,
funny you
yeah.
brought up the Cranberries because I remember I remember going to Wikipedia and looking up Cranberries and getting to their Wikipedia page, and I went in and found the at tail end of their bio where it's like they've sold 100 million copies of blah blah blah
Right.
worldwide, and then And then I just ended the sentence, and their music is absolute pure trash.
Oh, no.
Period. And I got it. It stayed for like a solid 3 or 4 days before it finally got taken down. There was a phase where I got off on editing Wikipedia pages. I added Space Force right when they were talking about it.
Oh,
I went in and edited it and put Space Force coming soon and made sure I had the HTML and shit in there. They took that shit down, but then like a month later they added it for real, and I was like mad. I like wanted original credit. It's so funny, dude.
There's this really weird thing that I'm surprised it didn't get more, just at least weird internet traction. There was a like plan in like 2001, not like a classified plan, but like a PR plan that was like called Space Command 2020, and it like basically predicted Space Force in its like in like a 16-page PDF, and like you can look it up. It's
it wasn't some weird Donald Trump thing, like, and it's not a bad idea.
Yeah,
like,
it's not crazy
because the Air Force originally, people were like, why do we need an Air Force? We already have an army.
Right.
And they were like, because the air needs to be its own military force, specialized just for that. And that's the same theory of Space Force. Is like, no. We have our Air Force. We need a specific group that are trained to like fight in, do shit in 0G all the way down to like the moon.
Right.
Like, not our regular people. Our regular people, those are experts at doing regular things.
Right.
Not regular. I'm using that word horribly. Like our actual Air Force, we don't want to take them away from what they're elite at.
Sure.
No, we need a different group of people who are elite at something else.
Right.
I know how preposterous that sounds, but that's exactly what the theory was. And that's why they separated the Air Force from the Army way back in the day, or the Army from the Navy, or whatever it was.
That goes back many
Pretty
centuries.
sure it was the Army, but
yeah, Navy, the naval piece of a military separate division.
Yeah, and that's all it was. And it actually does make sense, because we do need something up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. However,
but
it's interesting how Star Wars are.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough to train against like a unknown enemy anyway. So
Don't you watch The Expanse, bro?
Don't know what that is.
You've never watched The Expanse?
No, what's that?
It's not nearly as good as everyone says it is.
I've never heard of it, so
but it's pretty fucking good.
Okay.
It's pretty fucking good.
What's the premise?
So it's sci-fi. It's arguably the best current running sci-fi thing out there.
Oh.
You could bring up Star Trek.
Sure.
But that's a 50, 60-year-old franchise at this point. It's kind of disingenuous.
Right.
This is its own standalone thing.
Is it about going to different planets or something?
Oh yeah.
Sure. Okay.
Basically,
maybe I have heard of this.
So the seed of how it starts is there's Earth, and then we've already colonized Mars, and Mars has started mining the asteroid belt. And so there's 3 groups of humans throughout the solar system, and there's the Earthers, there's the Martians, and then there's the Belters. The people on the belt are basically like super poor, mildly not uneducated, but like, I don't know how to explain, oppressed. They're oppressed, and it goes. That's all I'm going to say. I ain't spoiling shit. I didn't spoil anything now.
No, that's
good. All told to you in the first 30 seconds.
Sure, yeah. It kind of sounds like StarCraft or something a little bit.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's not nearly as good as everyone acts.
Have you seen Moon before? The movie Moon?
I don't think so.
So that's by Zoe Bowie, one of David Bowie's children. And
so it's weird as fuck.
Directed it. So, I mean, the very basic premise is it's a guy mining moon rock and living by himself on the moon, mining moon. And that's about all I could say. But yeah, it's kind of got like some 2001 kind of and Ziggy Stardust kind of feeling of being just alone in space. And
so it's weird as fuck.
Yeah, it's really worth watching. I highly recommend it.
Called Moon?
Yep, just Moon.
I do love me some sci-fi.
Yeah.
That's a movie?
Yeah.
The movie?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. It's about 90 minutes. It's
This is a
really
TV show.
cool.
This is
Yeah.
a TV show.
Yeah.
There's like 5 seasons out. It's on Amazon if you got Amazon Prime.
Nope.
The Expanse.
Never been an Amazon Prime. Try to be sparse. Amazon.
Why? You don't like fucking convenient, speedy delivery?
You know why.
I don't know why.
Oh, I don't know. Just to not feed the
Beast.
the beast. But I have ordered from Amazon and recently. But I'm just saying I don't want to encourage myself to order from Amazon.
So you don't buy the Prime thing?
No.
Because that's why I do it, is because like I order enough shit to where it literally makes sense to just do the free shipping. And then once you factor in all the other perks that come with it, it's just like, okay.
Sure. Yeah. No,
Okay, totally worth
I
it.
get it.
No problem. You get all this media, you get a bunch of other shit that comes with it.
Yeah, it's
I can have
Pretty
I
wild
could have
deal they got
Surdix
there.
deliver booze.
oh wow.
Like if I really wanted to earlier, I would. Oh, I don't have time to get to the liquor store. Go through my Amazon app. Fucking go to Surdix. Boom, boom, boom.
Sure.
All of a sudden, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock rolls around. Boom, beer delivery.
Right.
Sick.
All
Awesome.
right. All right.
All right, it's worth
Yeah.
it now, baby.
Amazon, yeah,
It's worth it now, baby.
that was it.
All you had to do is say deliver beer.
Yeah, deliver booze. I can't go the 5 blocks. No, I don't know. I try to spend as much money local and do that thing. Keep the mom and pops in business.
We do that too. But I'm not gonna pay $80 for something I could get for $19.
Yeah. No,
Sorry, mom and pop.
I understand.
Sorry, mom and pop.
Yeah.
You
No,
need to
I
work
understand.
that out with your distributor.
And it's a bummer. There's just a lot of brick and mortar stores that just don't exist. Like Radio Shack is gone. I really kind of mourn the idea of that small electronics place because that's almost as necessary now as it was when they first made those. You know? what I
Yeah,
mean?
Radio
There's
Shack, I
so
think-
many-
Radio Shack, I think, is the because I've railed against people that lament that, and I'm like, no, it's
Right.
better now. But Radio Shack is the exception to the rule because I think
Sure.
there is a place for certain places like
Mhm.
Radio Shack, Guitar Centers.
Yeah.
I
I kind of wish
Best
Guitar
Buys.
Center and Radio Shack would have kind of become one thing because there's a lot of
Or Guitar
At least-
Center / Radio / Best Buy, something, or even
Yeah,
Radio
yeah,
Shack and Best
something.
Buy.
But having that separate like component thing to be able to fix your own electronics and stuff like that, like we're just getting back to electronics being so commonplace that people are going to want to fix their own. I know companies don't want you to do that as much.
Well, that's that right to repair shit that's coming up.
Right. Yeah.
I'm a big proponent of that, man. I'm a big proponent of right to repair because these corporations are basically robbing people blind by making, like, if you work on that, you void your warranty.
Yeah.
If you do this, it voids the warranty.
It's been like that for a long time.
They hoard.
but
They
yeah,
make
it's
it.
bad.
They make it illegal for you to even get access to the blueprints to figure out how to fix your own device.
Yeah.
And then the parts are exclusively designed and manufactured by them, and those are overpriced. So they intentionally do this and scale this to where it's literally cheaper for you to just
Right.
go buy a new device than to fix your perfectly good
Right.
old one.
Oh.
It's bullshit. They shouldn't be allowed to do that. They should have to allow you to repair it yourself or go find like an authorized certified dealer. Like that's the free market.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
why I try to explain to my capitalist friends like complete unfettered capitalism and monopolies. That's not a free market. Like when
Right.
I bring up the like, oh,
When
you're
they control everything.
yeah,
it's
I'm like,
not
oh, you're
free
about the
anymore.
free market and shit, right? And they're like,
Yeah.
yeah, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh, so how do you feel about like, Nike's being made by slaves in China? And they're like, free market, man. It's not America. And I'm like,
Oh,
dude, slavery's
wow.
not a free market, dude.
Right.
Like,
right.
that's
We're
not
getting
how
into
that
a different
works.
Thing. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
not
yeah.
how any of that works. A free market is a free open market of competition.
Right.
Now, capitalism and some of that other shit may be, but
Right.
yeah, man, like You gotta give consumers and workers a right and an option to create a fair market, and yeah, those two things do not align. They're both capitalism technically, right?
Right.
Neither one of them are a free market.
Well, and it's too bad because there's, at least in this country, like health insurance is a really fascinating piece that if you gave everybody a base level, what that base is we can talk about.
Sure. Yep.
But even like, I don't know, the ability to get medication each month up to a certain amount. And even just like a very basic, that would actually create more of a free market place if you didn't have this thing that was keeping people down all the time.
Oh, it would 100% create a better free market, because if everyone had access to certain free standardized healthcare,
right,
if you wanted to charge for healthcare, especially that same level of care,
right,
you would have to provide and prove and justify a significantly better level in order to get a price tag for that. So that's better for the consumer. It's like public school versus private school. It's not really free. We all pay for it through tax dollars. But everyone has the right to a basic public education.
Right. That was going to be my next thing.
And then, but if you can still go to a private school, and honestly, almost everyone admits private school education is better than public school education.
Right.
So when we bring out these ideas, like, it's not eliminating the free market. And in theory, it actually creates a stronger free market, because if all schools were privatized and you didn't have a free fallback,
right,
where there was a bill due every month or every quarter or every semester or whatever.
Now they control
that exactly. Now they control what the minimum price and standards are. So they can get together, and we all know, like Bilderberg and fucking Target and Walmart, they get together and they fix prices so they all charge the same amount for the Colgate toothbrush.
Where'd you want to go? Oh, sorry, you paid the same amount there. Bummer.
Yeah.
Nice try. Nice try. Try to get a different deal. But yeah, it's.
Yeah, and any of my fucking right-wing listeners, I hope you don't think I'm fucking going full commie on the bit, because that's not what I'm doing. I'm actually defending a free market and American capitalism.
We're just losing so much to just these really simple things.
Yeah, and it's mostly corporation.
Yeah. It's not raising that bar of healthcare. They are lowering.
And it's not creating a better marketplace for the consumer.
Right, exactly.
And that's what a free market is supposed to do.
Right.
Is create a better market for the consumer, so everyone benefits because we have options.
Yeah.
And when basically there's 4 or 5, and sometimes 1 or 0, because most people, if you have a job, most people's only option to healthcare is whoever their company has.
Right.
If you're in a state where they don't, like Minnesota, you can be like, fuck that bullshit healthcare. I'm going to the Minnesota thing.
Right.
It's not free, but you can still get coverage. You still have to pay for it.
Right.
But it's like you're guaranteed an option.
Right.
And you can kind of, honestly, the nice thing about the Minnesota thing is you can kind of pick whatever you want. Like, you can go crazy over the top and pay a lot of money, or you can go like kind of budget and get some basic bitch shit. I don't see a problem with that. I don't see how that's communism, because there's still private health insurance.
Right.
Same thing with the education thing. Like let's figure out a way to create a public college situation where, like, I could go get an engineering degree. I get it. Yeah. It's just from a public college, just like my public high school education. But it's still an opportunity. And wouldn't society be better if more people had the opportunity to get educated?
And it seems basic. Yes, I do think so. I do think a populace that's as educated as it wants to be is in a better situation than one certain financial bar to get as much education as they want.
And people
not everybody even wants to go to college, or, I mean, I was done at a bachelor's degree, and I'm like, that was really difficult, and I don't know if I would ever want to pursue more than I did. And I'm very.
You had a bachelor's in. You were an English major, right?
Yeah. Studies.
It's super interesting though, because people are like, "Well, where's the money going to come from?" Like, the money's literally already there. Think about this. we didn't have public school, all our property taxes, and subsequently, not you, but the proverbial you, your rent would be lower as well.
Sure.
The reason in America, at least in Minnesota, the reason you get a renter's rebate is because the property owner gets a property tax rebate.
Yep.
Okay, so you get a share of that.
Yep.
Because they're allowed to pass on their property taxes to their renters. Fair. Makes sense.
Yep.
It's the cost of living, you know. Same thing with the garbage and the lights and the heat.
Yep.
You know what I mean? They're all part of the deal. Maintenance, roofing, painting, carpeting, plumbing, all of it, right?
Yep.
Well, you get a little kickback for that.
Sure.
Well, my point is everybody's lives would definitely be cheaper if we didn't have that. But then you would also subsequently turn around and spend that money on a private education, which would be completely monopolized by different companies and corporations, and they would dictate that standard. So when we have public school as a
Which
minimum,
they already do. I mean, your Ivy League is the thing,
but
in separate level of private school.
And I'm not arguing against.
No, and I'm not either.
I'm actually arguing for it.
I'm just saying they already do that.
But with that guaranteed minimum of public education,
yeah,
no one is broker because of it.
Right.
And we've already kind of established how it creates those private schools. Now, in order to charge extra money for it, they really have to show that you get a much better education by going here and paying for it rather than depending on the public school system. We should be able to do the same thing in the healthcare system. It doesn't make sense to me that we can't do that and people think doing this eliminates that. It's like, no, they should be able to work in perfect harmony because the money's already there. But if suddenly you didn't have to spend $400 a month on your private insurance through your work, and you could just go through and just be like, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to opt in and do the $250 a month and just get the public one because that one's actually just as good as this bullshit one I'm paying privately because they got me by the balls. Right. And then all of a sudden that company goes, okay, well, here's the deal. We're going to come back. We've upped our coverage. We've improved everything. Now for $300 a month, we can actually show you that this coverage is significantly better than that public one. Okay, fuck it. 50 extra a month. I used to pay $400. I'll do the extra 50 a month. This is better coverage now. Now you got your private customer back, but you have to work for that.
Right.
Because I'm telling you, man, like I've always believed
the gym
this.
membership, and my Minsure wasn't about to give me the Snap Fitness membership.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, they have a lot more buying power in that regard too. That they can cut more deals. Probably have health insurance be covering your cell phone or something.
I just think insurance is one of the biggest scams on the planet. Because they literally profit from denying coverage, from fucking people over. And I've worked in that financial side of the industry, the insurance side. I've worked with them. I've worked for them. Worked against them. And it's a gross, cringy thing that they do. Is like, I've known with 100% certainty that this is a genuine insurance.
Mm-hmm.
But the fucking adjuster comes through and maybe they're having a bad day.
Right.
Maybe their wife just fucked them over. Husband just cheated on them, whatever, right?
Whatever.
And they're just looking for reasons to deny your claim. And then all of a sudden they do deny your. Nope. Blah, 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 blah. And they find some weird bullshit technicality.
Sure, right.
Because they were in a bad mood. Oh, that shit pisses me off. And then that whole Fight Club scene where he's like, you know, he breaks it down. This was when I was a teenager. I think I was 12 or 14 or 15 when that movie came out. And I seen that movie. And when he breaks down how the car companies and the insurance companies, the lawyers get involved and they do the math algorithm. If the cost of the recall is less than, or if it's more than paying out all the lawsuits, even though they know the car is going to kill people, they'll just leave the car out there on the road. That cringed me out so much, dude. And then I started...
And it's totaling perfectly good cars because... Yes.
I mean,
how much it is to fix it. It's like
I wish
what?
I wish they would total out more cars if they knew they were unsafe, but they're willing to let them
sure.
out there because it's
Yeah,
cheaper to pay people to die, even
Yeah.
though they know they're driving a shitty vehicle, than it is to pull all the cars back and fix them all.
Yeah, neither side is good in this. Neither side throw it away otherwise good cars, and other side putting bad cars.
I don't know. I worked at a shop for a while, dude. I seen some crazy shit.
Maybe.
I think people need to total cars much earlier than they do.
They're
I remember one time
patching some stuff back together.
One time this
shouldn't be
dude brings in
patched.
this little fucking Toyota, and he's like, dude, I don't know what's going on, but every time I shift, dude, my car kicks to the left like it's trying to throw me off the highway. We're like, all right. We pull it up on the ramp. His fucking entire frame had cracked and split like a can, like when you twist a can.
Yeah.
And it was like hanging on by like a 4-inch little strip. So every time he shifted gears, this fucking thing was going like this, and his car was moving on the highway. And it was like, if that thing would have snapped in half, who knows what? None of us were sure. Like, does your car pan out and you start dragging on the ground? You know, like, does your engine just fall? Like, we weren't even 100% sure. Like, we're like, dude, we don't even understand how you possibly did this.
Made it here.
Like, how did this even happen? What did you hit? I didn't hit nothing. We're like, you hit something. Ice, a rock, something happened where you fucking drove over something.
Recent-ish, because you couldn't get too far.
Dude, it was wild, bro. It was wild. Yeah, yeah.
Freaky.
But going back to our conversation, like, these corporations do some dirty ass shit. Man.
Yeah.
They really do.
Yeah.
They fucking, and I don't think these monopolies basically is what I was getting.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like a de facto monopoly is almost a better word for it, where it's like there isn't enough of a competition.
Right. It's gone. I mean,
basically a monopoly.
Nearly every
like YouTube.
industry
YouTube is a
that.
de facto monopoly.
Right.
I guess you could say there's YouTube or Vimeo, but YouTube is a de facto monopoly.
Yeah.
Between Facebook and Twitter, Facebook also owns Instagram. They're a de facto monopoly because only really those two have to agree, and they pretty much shut down all social media.
Yep.
Shit makes me nervous, man.
Yeah,
it makes me real nervous because motherfuckers are for it right now. They're like, yeah, private companies. I don't know, man.
Well, yeah, and then
when you're that big, like you control that much.
Well, and there is definitely an argument to be said that then you're just driving people back to message boards where nobody pushes back. Had a lot of examples of that not going real
Stay close
well.
to that, buddy.
Yeah. But we've had a lot of examples of message board.
Talking about like 4chan and shit.
I mean that, and just going back a very long time. I don't need to name particular blogs, but yeah, there's been a lot of those.
Can you name a couple? Because I'm not even sure I know what you're talking about.
A lot of that does lead to the 4chan, 8chan conversation, but like Something Awful and Rotten.com, and there was a lot of old places that it wasn't really known to most people, that now you just have people that just cheer each other on constantly, and you never have a normie come in and be like, hey, you're being really scary, not normal. Like, you please think about it. Versus a bunch of people like, yeah, get weirder, get crazier, drink bleach, woo, like whatever it is. Like, there's a level of patting on the back that goes on in that kind of anonymous context.
You're talking about an echo chamber.
Yeah.
You're talking about when YouTube, Facebook, and all these places, they start going, we're going to censor flat earth video.
Yep.
Now, I'm not a flat earther, and I don't think you are either.
No, not at all.
But
having people to go, hey, whoa, here's the science.
And they just cut it down. They're like, nope, no more flat earth videos. Then what happens is these flat earthers go to other websites where only other flat earthers go to, and it just cycles out of control, and they start whispering amongst themselves only, creeping in the shadows, and you don't really ever know what they're actually. I know. I want those motherfuckers right here, front and center, where I can talk
we
to
can
them.
talk to them.
Yep.
Yeah. It's like you're boarding up their house for them, and that's kind of where they want to be anyway, because that's what got them into a lot of the things they believe in, is some sort of fear of some overt control over something or whatever, some big lie.
Yeah.
Da.
And I think where this is super important is you actually were talking about this before the podcast, before we started. And this is a direct context towards that, is the algorithms.
Yep.
The way they
Yes.
feed you information based on people around you and whatever they think your digital voodoo doll is going to interact with. They don't care whether you like it or agree with it.
Right.
They just want you to interact. And typically we're easy and all we got to do is get pissed off and we dislike or we jump in and we're like, fuck you.
Yeah.
That's an interaction.
YouTube is unique that they give you the thumbs down.
Right. That combined with an echo chamber and what we're kind of talking about.
Yep.
So you already have an algorithm that's already pushing you down a path of regurgitating shit. So like I could be in Texas.
We've already interacted with and agreed with.
I could be in Texas and you could be in Minneapolis. We could be on a FaceTime call with each other.
Yep.
Go to Google, even clear our cache, even pull up incognito mode.
Yeah.
Okay, but it still knows where we're at.
Yeah.
Even in incognito mode. But our browsers are clear, our cache is clear. And we both type in the earth is, and based on where I'm at and the people around me is going to change what that auto fills to versus you in Minneapolis or someone in LA or someone in New York. So we already have that. And then when you get platforms that are actively deciding who can say what on their platforms. And I understand we need regulation on these sites because otherwise you get 8chan and 4chan.
Well, and you get War of the Worlds kind of stuff too.
I get that.
Somebody could be like, aliens are attacking.
But when you already have the algorithm and then you have censorship, and there's no other Twitter, there's no other Facebook, there's no other YouTube, you immediately go, well, my only other option then is 4chan, 8chan, or the dark web or wherever.
Yeah.
Where the real weirdos are.
Yeah.
I don't think that's constructive.
I know that's a free.
We got to keep those people over here,
right? Because you can at least tell Uncle
and I know what's going
Jim,
on.
Like,
and I know what's going on.
Yeah, well, and it's even people being like, I don't know. See a lot of gross stuff online, but when somebody actually calls them out on something and they actually see it and respond to it, you will see a shift in tone and stuff when somebody is like, are you really trying to do this over like dead kids or whatever? It's like, is that really your time to make a joke? And they're like, oh, I sent you a DM because it's like, oh, so clearly like this, somebody responding to you made you think differently about what you wrote. And I think we've all been there. If you post online that somebody would be like, hey, actually, da-da-da-da. You're like, didn't think about it like that. It's a great point. And you're like, I don't know. I've asked if they want me to delete it or not. Like, you know, you made a great point. Do you want me to delete it or leave it? You know, like, that's up to you, because at a certain point, that person has checkmated you, and that's up to them if you can take it down. Otherwise, that's a dirty delete.
Yeah, it gets super convoluted. It's so quick. So quick.
But sometimes you say something that seemed funny to you in your head, and it was just you hearing it. That goes back to having an editor.
I think it's
too,
even worse though when like I send you a joke on Twitter and you get it.
Sure.
You think it's funny.
Right.
Someone else reports it.
Right, yeah.
That's where shit I'm like, I think it has to come down to the two people who are actually doing shit.
Right,
I don't like this idea that you and I can say something to each other and an algorithm automatically flags it or somebody else can report it. I think it's your post. I commented on it. You need to flag it.
Right.
If you don't flag it, or it needs the first check to you. So if somebody reading it comes by, report it. First, it goes to you, and you go, no, it's an inside joke. I don't even have to answer to this person. I can just go, I already know, nope, denied. The comment stays. Because it's my fucking thread, man.
Right. Like sometimes
it's your fucking platform. It's my fucking thread.
Sometimes I want that person.
And sometimes
to get
it's just an insult.
Comments.
There you go.
I mean, that's why I posted so much for a while, because
Sometimes it's just a joke.
It's about that's true too.
Sometimes it's a video game joke. I'm gonna murder you tonight so many times. I'm gonna kill you so many times tonight. Because we plan on playing Call of Duty tonight. There's a dude who got banned for life from Twitter for that exact thing. And it was like, dude, we're in a Call of Duty clan together, and we are not together, but we had a match set up tonight. Yeah, and you guys and they're like sending screenshots of Call of Duty back and forth. Like, it was obvious if a human does it, but the algorithm grabbed them, and then they tried to fight it. And this is my issue too. My issue is if you try to appeal something on Facebook or Twitter or whatever, the same algorithm just reanalyzes it. It goes, nope. Yeah. And I know this is true because as soon as I hit the submit button for my appeal, I already have an answer back.
Right.
And it's like, what's the point of having an appeal process?
Right. Yeah.
It's so obvious. It's so common.
Yeah.
But they haven't figured it out yet. And I get it. The volume of shit they're dealing with. Put it on the poster.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I want to be able to say, nope, I'm not. Or I can even.
Or you could have.
I could attach mods like a message
temporarily hidden for, this person's review or original poster's review. You could, they could flag it. It can hide it. Then you can actually get around to it. I mean, in that case that you posted and walked away and lived your normal life and you didn't know somebody had come and, I don't know, encourage people to join a hate group or something on your post. I don't know. But you didn't notice it. But the algorithm did. At least it gives you like a chance to be like, yo, really? Really, Uncle Jim? You're going to promote your Knights of Columbus hate group? Or I don't know. No offense to Knights of Columbus.
I know what you're saying, though. Or the fucking Oath Keepers. And all of a sudden, before you know it, they're starting an insurrection. I know what you mean, man.
Via your mundane thing. I mean, but there's posted a general thing about here's a place to call and
stay close.
Here's a place to call and get a vaccine if you want it. Didn't tell anybody I think you should get it or anything. And there's somebody in the comments telling me why I shouldn't get it. It's like, okay.
And don't get it.
Right. And it's fine. And I said, I'll leave your comment up. I don't think it's really that relevant to my mundane post about telling people if you want it in this state. She doesn't live in this state. So it was like, okay. But something even as mundane as that doesn't even involve somebody, like, maybe, I don't know. I'll leave it up, but man, really tempting to delete too. So I get it. I get the.
But like you said, you leave it up. You let the other people go after them.
Yeah.
Then sometimes it gets a little funny.
Yeah. Sometimes it's great to let one of your friends take out the trash, man.
One of my buddies made a post. It was like one of those old school comic book style memes, and it was like it said anti-vaxxer, and he was sitting on top of a ball which was attached to a chain, and the other character on his back was written herd immunity.
Oh yeah, I saw
and
that.
Then it was like finish line.
Yeah,
and it was like we can't get to herd immunity fast enough because of the anti-vaxxers. And this dude came on and he commented, and it was hilarious. Because at first he seemed like he genuinely just didn't get it.
Right.
So then the original poster explained it to him. And then his response, it was the first time, I just did this again last night on the podcast in a great, good, fun, humor type of way.
Sure.
First time I used this phrase, though, was not in good humor. It was in the exact he was the meme. He was the anti-vaxxer,
right?
Literally preventing, not my guy last night. I'm not talking about my guy, but I used the phrase "you are the meme" last night as well because his name was Kyle. He owns a drywall company, and he used to drink a ton of Monster Energy drink. And I was just giggling. I was like, dude, you are the meme, bro. He's like, I know. It's great. No, but this guy was an actual, just like the meme. Right. He was an anti-vaxxer, preventing us from getting to herd immunity.
Right.
And I was like, dude, you're the meme. And he tried to fucking say some shit to me, and I was like, whatever you say, meme boy. Like, he tried to say some shit back, and I was like, dude, I don't even know who you are, man. Like, this shit's hilarious, dude. You're some random dude on the internet trying to spit some crazy flat earth style conspiracy.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't believe in the vaccine, don't get the vaccine.
Yeah. I'm not gonna yell at you to get it. I'm just trying to tell you, if you want it, here's a good way to get it. Cool. I'm gonna get it. I hope you do if you feel comfortable, but I don't want you to go and freak out at the place while you're like, ah.
But if Chris would have deleted that comment, I wouldn't have been able to call him meme boy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Sometimes,
Because there's someone out there foolish enough to think I'm even an anti-vaxxer. There's some people out there that think I'm a Trump supporter. In fact, someone else, another buddy of mine who was on the podcast, I can't even remember who it was now.
Did they try to call you out?
He made a post like, hey, I'm going on this podcast, and someone commented like, oh, the Jared Singer Extravaganza, what is it, a bunch of Trumpy land bullshit? I don't remember which guest made the post. I don't even remember who made the comment, but I remember the interaction.
Did you say something?
Yeah, I was like, go fuck yourself. Right? And he's like, oh, thanks a lot. Very polite. Oh, don't think I forgot about all the Trumpy land bullshit you used to say. And I'm like, dude, I don't know where you got any of this impression I'm a Trump supporter.
Yeah, I'd love to hear what he
like. I'd love to see the screenshots.
Yeah.
And it's probably because I hated Hillary Clinton.
Sure.
So if you didn't like Hillary Clinton, in his eyes, you're automatically a Trump supporter. Like, that's not how that works at all. Like, I hated both of them.
Yeah.
With an actual vehement passion.
Both the most
and I didn't vote for either one of them.
Yeah.
I didn't vote for Trump or Hillary.
Yeah.
I think we both voted third party.
We did.
Because I remember hanging out with you, and I remember being blown away that he won. I was like, because I remember I was convinced Hillary was going to win. Yeah. And I was like, but I can't contribute to that, especially living in Minnesota where I know she's going to win.
Right. Barely.
Like, I was like, I'm voting for Jill Jorgensen. And I think you voted for Jill Stein.
Yeah.
I think
you voted for Gary Johnson.
Oh, yeah. I'm thinking 2020. You're right. I voted for Gary Johnson. I voted Libertarian. Yep. Twice in a row, actually. For the first time in my life, I voted for the same party twice.
Yeah.
Crazy. And I voted for Jill Jorgensen as basically my version of like abstaining. Like, I'm not going to not vote.
No,
I'm not going to not vote.
It's a tough thing.
But like, I hated Trump so much, I still wasn't voting for him. And I also equally despised Biden. So I was like, my version of abstaining was I'm going to vote for Jill Jorgensen. Because I know she's not going to win.
I decided to vote for Joe Biden because Trump would be by people voting for Joe Biden.
You just want to ultimate troll move.
Here's my only chance to troll this guy back. Here it is, voting for somebody I'm definitely not excited for. But
well, plus I knew Minnesota was going for Minnesota is going for the president, whoever is dressed in blue. Period. So
that's the electoral college. Baby.
Unless I vote for blue. Mm-hmm. I'm voting for the loser, which I have done, except for Obama.
It's funny.
Like, Obama is the only president I voted for that actually won. Every single other president I voted for, including other Democrats, have lost, including John Kerry.
You're right. No, Obama's the only one I voted for other than Biden.
And I never voted for Bush or Trump or Cheney. Or not Cheney. What's his name? McCain or Romney. I didn't vote for any of those Republicans. Yeah. So I'm very confused. And I'm very open about all this.
Yeah, no.
But I'm super confused how people think I'm like some right-wing Trumper.
Yeah. I don't know. There's a lot of assumptions going on. I think there's a lot of people that don't really know where they stand. And it's the electoral college falling apart. It's the two-party system falling apart. It's all of it ripping
so what do you do you think we need a third party? Like a real third party?
Well, the third party can't do anything with the election. You couldn't do.
Why do you think that? I have strong opinions on this. I want to work this out with you.
I don't think anybody with enough clout to run for the Republican or Democratic Party would run third party.
Okay, but
So
let's say
if they're a big
there
enough
was a
draw-
third party.
Right, but if they're a big enough draw in the Democratic or Republican Party to run, that's where they're gonna go. That's the party, baby. You don't want to go to
let's say they magically
gymnasiums or whatever.
But let's
You
say
wanna
they
do-
magically created a third party called the Demopublic Party.
Sure.
Like a perfect blend where everyone's happy,
Sure.
right? Not everyone, but there's
Sure.
a third party. Like
I mean, Ross Perot is.
I
look at
used to
1992,
be a
it's
third
wild,
I
man.
used to be a guy who was like, we need a third party. We need a third party. We need a third party.
Right.
And then leading up to this election, I did a bunch of fucking research. I actually spent
Sure.
2 entire days. Well, mostly just one, and then I touched up on a few
Sure.
interesting
Sure.
things that I
Alright.
wanted to follow up on the
Yeah.
second day. But seriously, man, like one president basically could take anywhere from 5 minutes to an hour,
Right.
depending on how far back because you had to understand the context of what was going on when they entered office to
Mhm.
understand the significance of whether this person was effective, a stale president, a good president, a bad president, right? There was
Mhm.
so much bullshit. Well, basically is what my point is we used to have 3 parties. We used to have 4 and 5 and 6 parties. The reason we ended up with 2 parties is because literally when there was 3 parties or more,
Mhm.
there was just less people that would win elections, like as far as percentage representing
Yeah.
the population, and less people were happy with the outcomes. There's a reason we ended up with 2 parties.
Mhm.
And it's literally because it was the only way to actually get a decent amount of people happy, because people in this country lately go, we got to get rid of the Electoral College because it's not fair because more people vote for this guy. That's the point. Is like the whole Electoral College and the whole point of our democracy is to protect against the simple majority. We're not a nation of 330 million people. We're a nation of 50 countries. And it's not fair to give each country one vote
Sure.
because there's more than X amount of people in each vote. And if you just looked at it that way, you would get an even more unfair representation. So through a lot of math and a lot of testing and a lot of blending of other systems, the Electoral College is simply the least shitty thing anyone's ever thought of. It's not a good idea. It doesn't work. It's not the best. The 2-party system also isn't the best. It's just the least shitty thing any of us have come up with yet. And we didn't invent it. It was like this weird amalgamation of like a bunch of other political systems. What worked with everyone else's shit, and then we got rid of things that were like heinous or didn't work. And yeah, we ended up with this cog of fucking bullshit where sometimes we never get anything done. That's exactly the point. Because you don't want a bunch of right-wing extremists or a bunch of fucking actual communists to be able to fucking win the popular vote, get in control of the White House, win a couple more popular votes, boom, now they run the Senate, and then all of a sudden we turn into like...
But just because we're doing popular vote doesn't mean we don't have the Secretary of State running the election in the state.
When
This
you
is-
have nothing more than a popular vote, though, it literally...
You still are tying votes to registered voters.
But you're allowing the simple majority to decide, and that is the least fair way.
It's disenfranchising Republicans in California and Democrats in it's in Florida. It's destructive to the entire idea of people thinking their vote matters. Really destructive to that.
The Electoral College?
Yes.
It's not, though. It's not,
You
though.
don't get a real picture because you have people that assume that, well, my vote will never change anything because I live in this state and they always go red or they always go blue, and it's just enough percentage points that it'll never matter, and that's where I am. I think it really disenfranchises voters to a really negative degree. And it's not a Republican or Democrat. I don't think more people end up with, but I think it doesn't make sense to have people's vote in my Wyoming matter way more than ours does here.
It doesn't.
It does.
No, it doesn't. That
it has more representation per person.
That's called equity. That's called an equitable vote. That's
what do you
why
think about the Senate? You think that's the same? You think that's
No, that's an equal vote because each state has 2 senators. So you have an equal vote and then you have an equitable vote on 2 different branches, the Senate versus the administrative branch, the president. So you have an equitable vote when it comes to, as a state, as a citizen of a state, you have an equitable vote when it comes to the administrative branch, the president.
How do you feel about adding senators to territories then? Guam and
Well,
Puerto
we've
Rico,
offered
electoral college votes
we've
to Puerto Rico.
We've offered
Guam.
Here's the thing. If you want to have electoral college votes, you need to become a state. We've offered statehood to Puerto Rico dozens of times, and they've turned it down because financially, the way the taxes work, it's better for them to just remain a territory. So no. If you continuously say you don't want to be a state, you don't get a vote.
District of Columbia.
The citizens still get votes, but no, we're not going to assign senators to you. No, and I don't remember the nuance of the DC one, but no, I actually do remember doing the research when I was in school, and there is a very, very specific and well thought out reason, and it has to do with something along the lines of because that's where all the politicians and lobbyists live. So they don't get an election vote or some sort of repetition. It's very well thought out, and I can't tell you what it is, but like these are extremely intelligent people that their entire job for a very long time hanging out with the other smartest people who watch shit go really bad, figured out these checks and balances. And they're all there for a good reason, and almost 100% of the arguments are completely ignoring any of the points that the original guys made. Like I said, with the reason we don't go popular vote, it's very simple. It's to protect against the simple majority because we are not a nation of 330 individual citizens. We are 50 individual countries that all operate as one. So, no, we're not going to have every single random person have an equal vote for this. Each state gets a vote for this. But you can't give California the same state, the one vote.
Federal money from all the different states pooled together.
That has zero to do with what we're talking about.
Well, it has to do with financial representation.
But that has nothing to do with... None of this has to do with the Electoral College, which was instituted well before federal taxes ever became a thing. It has nothing to do with the Electoral College because it was before federal taxes were ever a thing.
Land is not a vote.
Nothing to do with the Electoral College.
That's certain. It's taking these borders and saying this amount of land has a certain amount of votes.
It's directly related to the amount of people in the area. The Electoral College?
Compared to California?
The Electoral College, the amount of votes you get are directly related to the amount of people you have. That's why Minnesota's about to...
proportional representation between Wyoming and California.
No, it's called equitable representation. Okay? Like, there's a very distinct difference. That's why Minnesota's about to lose an Electoral College vote. Because we're not holding the same percentage of Americans anymore. So we're losing a vote and someone else is gaining a vote. I can't remember what state it is. But they move back and forth, dude. So basically, here's the point. If a bunch of people move to Wyoming, they will actually get more votes, but their electoral equity will actually go down. And then everyone in Wyoming will be bitching because... I only get 0.8 representation, and people over in Virginia get 3 votes. Yeah, exactly, because if we don't give them fucking 3 electoral votes, their opinion means nothing. That's why it's called equity, dude. It's not an equal vote. We built a system to make sure that not every single person in this country, in California, with money and wealth,
but Wyoming still has their own state individuality in this.
Right, and even with an equitable vote, they are still an inconsequential state. So this is coming from a bunch of people who are winning elections and then complaining that even though this state is irrelevant to the outcome of the election, they still have too much say. Get out of here. Get out of here, man. Like,
I think it's disenfranchising.
It's not.
voters,
It's called
man.
equity. It's called equity, man.
You think as many Republicans go to vote in California as they would?
What?
Republicans voting in California during a presidential election, you think as many Republicans go to the ballot box as would otherwise?
I don't understand how that relates to the popular versus electoral
I'm talking
college.
about people feeling like their vote in their individual state does not matter because they do not agree with the major party in. That's what I'm talking.
Well,
I think it's bad.
I think I got confused because you used California.
It's bad for representation. Yes, Republicans in California, I think, vote less because they're a Republican in California. They assume their vote will never matter in California because of the electoral.
California is
college.
a swing state. What are you talking about?
It hasn't gone Republican in a very, very long time.
Are you speaking only just to the presidential election?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm saying that
So you can have
less
a
people
but you
vote
can but
because
dude,
of it.
but dude, in the same election year on a regular basis, we will elect a Democratic president from Minnesota, whether he wins or loses, or she or wins or loses.
Right.
But then we'll turn around and elect on the same ballot a Republican governor.
Right.
So no, the answer is the electoral
Minnesota
college.
is different
because
we're
it's
very split down the middle.
we're
actually.
not that different, dude. That's exactly how California has done it for a long time. On the presidential side, they go red or blue, and then the governor is the exact opposite. So that means there's definitely enough Republicans showing up to the ballot box to win one election, but not the other. And if anything, it's going. It's not affecting.
I think it makes people think their vote doesn't matter. Okay, maybe it's completely false. Still, that red and blue state idea is problematic to the idea of people thinking their vote matters. That's my view on it, and I really think that people are not voting as much in those states for the opposing party of the majority because they have been feeling like their vote will never.
Well,
So.
it's to definitely it's directly to avoid the simple majority
And I
quickly
understand
taking
that.
over. That's the point. Is you can't just rush in and win 51% and be like, we got it.
Right, but
Nope.
Ross Perot
You
got
have to win.
19% and got 0 electoral votes. Do you think that's a system that can actually take on a third party, or does it only prop up those two major parties because it's the electoral college?
I don't
and
think
get
those two
voted?
things are actually related. That's what I was getting to earlier. So
19% of the vote means 0 votes. That is a erasure of a huge percentage of American votes.
wouldn't have affected the outcome.
It certainly did affect the outcome.
It
George Bush
wouldn't
lost.
have affected the outcome because he
More
wouldn't have
Republicans
won.
Went to Perot and George Bush lost.
So you think? So what? Hold on though. I feel like you're either I'm confused and you're making two different arguments, or the argument you're making isn't making any sense. So let's back up.
I'm saying that after Perot, people have.
But what does
seen
that 19% mean? He wasn't going to win.
It means the Electoral College does not represent the people that vote for.
But a
anything
popular
other
vote.
than-
But a popular vote, he still would have lost the election, right?
Yes.
Okay. And in a popular vote, literally, regardless of where the electoral votes went, if there's a viable third party every year, now you have up to 20% of the people voting third party, still losing.
Right.
So now you have 80% of the people battling over the other two. Okay? Without the third party, okay, you pick a two simple sides, and I'm not even agreeing with the two-party system, but we arrived at this for a reason, because when you had a third party, there was, so let's say it was 34, 33,
Right,
33.
It's the spoiler problem.
No, I'm not going that route. I'm not even going a vote for him is a vote for them. I'm not doing that. What I'm saying is, like,
That's not what I mean.
let's say it's a closer election.
Sure.
Right now it's really not, and it's not actually affecting the outcomes because nobody's even taking the third party seriously, but we used to have 3 and 4 and 5 parties. And what would happen is no one would get enough electoral college votes.
Right.
That's what would happen. And then not enough people were represented to even fairly elect a president. So then is what would happen is these things would go to the courts and they'd be settled behind closed doors. I'm going to tell you a story, one of the darkest, deepest, nastiest stories in American politics.
Okay.
This is literally what directly related to Jim Crow laws and all the civil rights issues we ran into in the 1960s.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember who the president is that won.
Sure.
But the president that lost, quote unquote lost, his name was Tilden. Okay, now technically Tilden won. Okay. But he was a racist piece of shit from the South who wanted to end the Reconstruction Act. The Reconstruction Act was the American North having stations of soldiers in the South to prevent further slavery and oppression and civil rights abuses towards the black Americans.
Building up their own military again.
Yep, all that kind of stuff, right?
Yep.
So Tilden won the election fair and square. But much like this election between Biden and Trump, they were disputing in the courts 4 states that would, and Tilden won them and would have become president. But he and the other president that actually won, I can't remember who it is, went behind closed doors. And he's like, all right, here's the deal. Even though I won, I'll give you the 4 disputed states, and it's gonna give you the win under the condition you end the Reconstruction Act. He's like, all right. Boom. Sets off a chain reaction that 100 years later, less than 100 years later, directly leads to the 1940s, 50s, 60s, and 70s civil rights movements that we all know of and still feel like we're dealing with today.
Right.
That's the shit I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And that was because there was still a third party there.
Right.
So, like, none of them were representing the majority of anyone. You see what I'm getting at here? So it's not about no one represents the majority of anyone in this country.
It's almost as if we shouldn't have a president at all.
That's one argument, but is where it really boils down to is the idea of the Electoral College is that what you are doing is you're representing an equitable amount of Americans across the country, a cross section of different states and cultures. Because, dude, our culture here is dramatically different than Texas or Florida or even Iowa or Ohio or New York or Oregon.
It's a very wild
It is
country.
not fair. It is not fair to just go popular vote when we're talking about the single leader. So the idea is with the Electoral College and weighted equitable votes, because it's 50 nations, that you get an equitable cross-section representation of enough different types of Americans across the country to gain enough Electoral College votes to have a legitimate claim at the presidency. And that's why we've never gone away from it, and we shouldn't. We really shouldn't, because honestly, man, I'm telling you, we don't want 40, 50, 60 years of the same party in office, and we certainly don't want to go every election 4 years with different guys. We don't want to turn into India, where literally all it takes is a good disinformation campaign on the internet to radicalize 51% of the population against a certain idea, and we're emotionally ready to vote in the next Hitler, because that's all it takes. Rally up enough people in the right cities, and you got yourself a fucking Hitler. We can't do that. Seriously, man. Like, very, very, very critical that
we're talking about a nation of 330 million people. I mean, that's a tall order to be able to get that many people, but I guess India.
It almost happened. Bigger. I mean, it almost started to happen. They have a lot more people than we do, by the way, over there in India. Yeah. They have way more people than us. But dude, seriously, like, it sounds extreme until in 2000 the Patriot Act gets passed because a bunch of emotional Americans are afraid of terrorism, and it takes 20 years for all the paranoid fucking conspiracy theorists to be proven right, where you see Donald Trump telling Homeland Security to run around and start snatching people during the riots.
That was a great one, wasn't it? Wasn't it wild to see?
It's like
Scanner Darkly,
and I'm standing out there screaming, "I fucking told you so."
Yeah.
This is why we don't allow that kind of shit. This is why we freak out about, because this power can easily be abused. So these systems are not made to fucking represent a simple majority. These situations are made to make it extremely difficult to exploit an emotion or a problem or a weakness or a simple majority. Like, for example, when we were literally all white people, now we're not all white people in this country, right? You don't want, if you go popular vote,
I don't know when that was.
if you go popular vote, black people's votes, Latinos' votes would have been meaningless and still would technically be. You see what I'm saying? Like, you can't just go popular vote because no, dude. It's not about equality. It's about equity.
Well, the problem in
You get
part
your
of all
popular
of
vote on your
this
local elections.
is your people that control that message between 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 parties is controlled by the moneyed interests of the two major parties.
What do you,
You
let me
don't
ask you this.
have-
I have a better idea. What do you think
That's
of weighted
not
voting?
equal. Of what?
What do you think of don't worry about the electoral college. What do you think of weighted voting?
Weighted voting, not ranked choice, or is that what you're talking about?
That's
Yeah.
basically
I love it. No, I think that's where we get a
ranked
real,
choice.
That's where we get an actual idea of what people believe in.
So explain to people that don't understand what ranked choice is. I say weighted voting, but it's actually
Sure.
ranked choice. That's the actual term for it.
Sure.
Explain to
So
people what that means.
RCV, in my understanding, I'm no expert.
Let's do the
on that.
last election just for actual context. So we had Biden, Trump, and we had several other
Jorgensen,
people.
Howie Hawkins.
Pick just
Sure.
but just pick one for the sake of argument. Whoever you want.
Sure. So, I would say your, I don't know, average person who doesn't believe in third parties would say, I could vote for the major party and then maybe I'll vote for the other major party because I don't really care either way. I just
You're a voter. You're sitting at the box. How does ranked choice voting work?
Howie Hawkins and Joe Jorgensen scare you, but Trump and Biden don't.
Okay.
But you have a preference for one or the other. So Biden would be your number one and Trump would be your number two. You didn't choose to have a third. So
Stay close to that mic.
you've weighted your decision on whichever you prefer.
You rank them.
Yeah, but you're also like very definitively saying I'm not offering any support towards Joe Jorgensen or Howie Hawkins.
So whoever gets the most amount of number one votes
Yeah,
actually
if
wins.
That's a clear owner or a
Right.
clear winner, then
Right. But if it somehow comes to a tie,
then there's some
then it
math
goes to
that
whoever
gets
gets
a
the
little,
most amount of two votes.
Yep. Then the
And
two
so on.
votes factor in. Yeah,
I think that's a way better
it's getting
solution
closer to
than
actual-
anything we've brought up, including eliminating the. Because I am a vehement defender
Mhm.
of the Electoral College,
Sure.
and ranked choice voting hurts no one. It increases transparency.
Sure. I think there's a balance there.
It provides even more equity
Mm-hmm.
and equality.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it is the smartest possible solution to a modern day problem is ranked choice voting.
Sure. Yeah.
I wanted to go in that election. I wanted to go Jill Jorgensen, and then
It's Joe, by the way. J-O.
Joe Jorgensen. Why do I keep saying Jill
I
Jorgensen?
think you're confusing with Jill,
Jill
Stein.
Chauvinist. Chauvinist piece
All
of
Jills
shit
are
I
the
am.
same.
All women politicians with letters
Her
J.
name Jill.
I do it all the time with dudes too. All the time, especially in sports. I used to say like, what was it? Brian Belichick or whatever. I'd blend two different coaches. It's Bill Belichick and Brian Billick, but I do that one a lot.
I do feel bad for the Karens in chat.
I don't.
I mean, just got dealt a rough hand and you didn't even know
I
it
don't.
for
My
a
name's
really long
Jared.
time. Fair enough. I mean,
You know what I
don't
mean? Like-
think everybody attaches all of Jared to the worst Jared.
I mean, I get the Subway one. I get the Gallery of Jewelers one.
yeah. Well, but I don't know. That's not. I don't know. Subway one's bad, but that's not on you in the same way that every Karen now is waiting for somebody to respond in a Karen type way. Just to be like, okay, Karen, in response. You're like you're teed up for it. So I hope the Karens and Chads have been
I like the Todd.
self-reflected.
What a fucking Todd. What a fucking Todd.
But
what a Kyle.
that
was my favorite one from last night's podcast.
Kyle. Yeah.
That one was great
Yeah,
because
that's
he
a great
leaned
example.
into that one. He's like, "Oh, I know, buddy. I know."
Yeah.
I love that guy.
There's something to it.
Shout out to Kyle.
But I do feel bad for the nice Karens and Chads out there for they didn't ask for the name that they were given and then became something offensive or vaguely offensive.
Just want to make. It was it was one Karen that fucked it up for all of them.
Which one? Who's the source?
It
Karen?
was one cunty Karen.
And
I worked in retail long enough. Do you remember the original?
Zero.
Do you remember the original Karen meme?
I don't know. Maybe I do.
So it was like it was part of the I want to speak to your manager starter starter kit.
Yeah,
you remember the
haircut.
starter kits?
Yeah.
It was the haircut.
Yeah.
It was the cell phone and the purse.
Oh, yeah.
And it was the let me speak to your manager. I want to speak to your manager starter kit. And that's where
Yeah.
it started. And that turned into a Karen. And then somewhere it evolved into a racial thing. So one of them bitches was actually named Karen along the way.
Yeah.
And I think
like
what it was is one of them racist bitches who was calling the cops on some black family
Yeah.
for doing something.
Yeah. Be a
Her
normal.
actual name was Karen, and she had the haircut from the speak
The
to your
living meme,
manager thing.
sure.
Yeah, and I think, boom, that's a Karen. That's what I think happened.
Sure.
As somebody who kind of witnessed that whole thing happen in
Yeah.
real time on the internet. But I don't know. Here's what we need. We need a version of the press that documents this kind of shit in context.
Know your meme. KnowYourMeme.com.
Is that what it is?
No, yeah. That's literally what they do. They try to source every meme. They'll give you some examples. Pretty great. Pretty great place.
KnowYourMeme.com, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Get
like
them
it.
as a sponsor. If you're gonna mention memes every night, then maybe that's who should sponsor you.
Shout out to KnowYourMeme.com.
Know Your Meme.
I'm sponsor the podcast,
It
boys.
is fun. I think they'll respond to you if you offer a good thing. I think I've corrected a typo on Know Your Meme actually to tie this all together.
Really?
Yeah. They tweeted back at me.
You do more than
Thank
just
you.
correct typos, though. It's not
Yeah.
just pointing out typos.
No. Well, and there was a point where I don't know. I get in kind of a weird dilemma of adding the actual company because now I'm calling out some random worker like you or me that's just
Sure.
a graphic designer trying to pay
Right.
the rent.
It's easier when it's just like CBS.
Yeah.
NBC.
But even that, like, all of a sudden somebody's like,
I work for NBC.
We didn't see, we didn't see that typo when you put it up. But thanks, Paul Bowman. You really showed us who's.
We
messing
fired the
up."
right intern today.
Yeah. That's the tweet I'm waiting to receive back. Like, thanks, Paul Bowman. You helped us.
So we just got to
fire-
make up a
fire
fake.
somebody who
We
makes
just got to
less
make
than
up a
you.
fake one.
Yeah. So there was a point where I was like, I
It's
don't know.
triplexn.com,
So if it's like an
the most
article,
official news source on the planet. triplexn.com. Don't go there.
If it's if it's a writer, I'll try to just at them about something. If their DM's open, I'll even do that. If I liked the piece, just like, hitting this typo kind of like threw off my, focus or whatever. They understand that. It sounds easy to somebody else, but the flow of a piece can be thrown off if you come across some glaring typo.
Dude,
So.
it's getting bad though, man. It's like, especially on the internet,
Bad.
it's getting really bad. Because literally, dude, I'll fucking be reading some shit in like a legitimate news
yeah.
web
Yeah,
source.
this is supposed to be
And
a
I'm
good
reading
one.
something and I'm
Yeah.
like, this fucking article doesn't even make any sense. There's two or I think I know what they're trying to say, but they
Right.
fucked this typo up and used the wrong combo of words here just perfectly right. And I think it's what you said.
Yeah.
They've rewritten this thing so many
And
times.
nobody reread the sentence after they updated this, but didn't update that.
Yeah, I'm like, they're going one of two ways here, but
Yeah.
it's
No, it's both.
and it's completely
wrong, yeah.
I don't understand.
Yeah. Now you've lost.
Now
the
this is bullshit.
context, and now, yeah,
I don't even want to finish reading this.
and yeah, it's
And
not,
I do. I quit reading.
It's not to exactly. Oh man, so many times like I just stopped caring so much about the validity, not necessarily what I read before that, but everything after is definitely just askew in my head. Like, wait, they didn't even have an editor look at this, because an editor would have caught that. Whatever that is. It's like, okay, I know that wasn't a professional editor looking at this before it was posted. And a lot of those web pieces, you can see that they're updated later. And it's like, yeah, after some person on the internet was like, hey, what?
I think the
What's up
coolest
with
thing about
this?
your job though is sometimes you see the news like a day before it breaks.
Yep.
And you can't say anything. You're like the
Right.
NSA.
Yeah.
You got to keep your fucking mouth shut.
Most of the time, it doesn't mean anything, or it's really not.
I
that
remember there was a
interesting.
couple times you knew about something and you're like, dude, we should turn the news on. And I was like, why? What's up? And you're like, just trust me. Just turn the news on.
There's.
And then they break the news and you're like, yeah, I knew about that yesterday. I won't give any
Yeah.
examples, but
Yeah.
like you waited and you're like, yeah, I knew about that.
Yeah, it's. I don't know.
Like you knew
Most
it
of
was
the time
coming
it's
too.
just
You
not
knew
that
it was coming
interesting.
too, though. But there was a couple times it was. And I don't think this is actually related, but I do remember there was a time where that fucking plane disappeared. And there was something involved either with that or around that at that time, where I think that was already on the news and you were like, hey, turn the news on. I want to see about this.
Oh, sure.
And then something else came up on the news and I was like, oh, that's crazy. And you were like, oh yeah, I heard about that yesterday. And I was like, how? It just broke. And you're like, it's part of my job. Like, and I was like, oh, that's right. That's so cool. And it was something stupid, like a sports thing or something,
Sure.
like, yeah. I heard about that. So-and-so signed so-and-so or whatever. It was just cool, man. It was just one of those cool little things. And
yeah, it's
weird.
most of
I
it's
find
not
dumb shit like that fascinating.
interesting, but yes, there are occasionally things that you see a little bit before. Like the biggest companies don't wait, like don't let us sit on stuff for very long. Basically,
Yes, you were telling me sometimes
Yeah.
it's a few minutes.
Yeah,
Sometimes
most
it's
of
like,
the
dude, review
time-
this now. This has
Yeah.
to go out in 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's a issue, but yeah, it is an interesting business, and sometimes you see something a week before it goes out, and sometimes it's like, this needs to be out 5 minutes ago. And what? Why didn't you send it to me earlier? Oh, it was approved by the board. Just that, like, okay.
Yep.
Well, you
Yep,
spelled
this
your
is
company
happening
name
now.
wrong in the headline, so your board should take another look. Yeah. So
That's
I don't
hilarious.
know. Yeah, it's a really interesting job to be editing people's stuff that, to be honest, make way more than I ever will or do, and still make small egregious typos.
Yeah. I'm the
That's-
worst at it,
yeah,
man.
and it's fine.
I remember there was one time I
it's
had
just not
two.
using editors in house.
I remember one time I had 2 episodes with the same number on them. That's how egregious my typos get sometimes. It gets rough. Hey, I got a question for you. Do you still
Sure.
do that Bonnaroo trip every year?
I do.
Do you?
Yeah.
Do you take the wife with you now, or do you still do it solo?
He doesn't like to. He doesn't.
Doesn't like to. I want to do that with you some year, dude.
Welcome.
Dude. Ah, man. I don't think we can talk about it.
Fun place. I recommend it if you can handle the heat, but this year is in September. But it's sold out this year.
Yeah, but
Open invitation.
there's ways to get tickets.
Oh, that's true. It's a very cool place. I think it has one of the best festivals so far announced.
I just want to go because I just want to experience that specific festival.
So Bonnaroo is very different from other festivals in that you're in the South, but you're also in the middle of a farm field. So like,
Where is it again?
it's in Tennessee.
That's right. That's right.
Hour and a half south of Nashville.
In Bonnaroo, right?
It's Manchester, Tennessee.
I thought it was in Bonnaroo.
It is kind of like a town. I mean, it's way bigger than Manchester is.
Sure.
So once people are in, very different thing. But I don't know. It's the vibe is very different than other festivals that
Are
are
mushrooms
like
legal in Tennessee yet?
No.
Not yet.
Gonna be one of the last ones on
You'd
board.
be surprised.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised.
True. I mean, yeah, I hear a lot of talk about freedom from people on the right, and I don't see them trying to legalize a whole lot of stuff. Kind of
Man,
confusing.
they passed that legalization bill for weed through the Senate in Minnesota, and then it just never got pulled up by the House, or vice versa. You're like, nope, we're not looking at it.
So you're in the middle of a farm field, just getting soured by sun the whole time. You're not around skyscrapers like you are at Lollapalooza, Riot Fest. Coachella is probably the closest thing because you're out in the middle of the desert.
Sure.
But just that feeling of, I don't know, a lot of city kids being away from the city for a weekend. There's a whole vibe that goes along with just that. Like,
I feel like I
people
could make a
trying to get
lot
out.
of money.
Well, there's that too.
I feel like I could make a lot of money being prepared and providing shit for idiots.
Depends on the weather. Sometimes it's perfect weather, but yes.
Fine. Perfect weather. Be prepared for perfect. You still got to start fires. Most of you morons ran out
They
of.
don't let fires.
Oh, they don't allow fires? No bonfires?
No.
No bonfires at Bonnaroo?
They used to.
That's bullshit.
Fires happened. A lot of
idiots.
A lot of those first years were pretty unsafe, to put lightly.
So how do you cook food?
You could use propane.
Propane grills?
Yep.
So you could have a propane, like, portable
it's normally
bonfire.
really dry too. Like I
so you
said,
could have like a propane bonfire. Then you could probably, because they make propane like fires, right?
Yeah, you could probably do that.
And it seriously runs off a tank. It's a self-built thing.
Yeah. If they let you bring it in, I don't know. It
sounds like the real way to do it though is an RV.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. It's something that requires a whole different level of planning. But you do get to be a lot closer. Costs a lot more money.
How many mushrooms can I do?
Don't know.
Can I do all the mushrooms?
You gotta find them.
I'll bring them.
Well,
is it a place? Is it a place I can do mushrooms?
It is a place.
Is it
that you could probably do mushrooms?
Is it a place I could score some DMT?
I don't know about.
Have you ever done DMT?
I have not.
I want to so bad.
My first podcast appearance tonight. I got the meme in real life.
I want to do DMT so fucking bad. I want to do DMT so fucking bad. It's the only drug I want to do that I haven't done.
I enjoy hearing people's things about it.
I want to do it so bad. If I can get some at Bonnaroo, I'm coming. Let me know, guys.
You're just out here tweeting at Bonnaroo. So can I get DMT?
Can I get some DMT? We got some listeners in Tennessee. We got some listeners in Virginia.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
we got some listeners in Tejas. We don't have a lot of listeners anywhere, but we do have a surprisingly and encouragingly impressive reach. We got a very good international following.
Cool.
Well, very good for what I thought we would have.
Oh, sure.
Like, we got people listening in Russia, fucking Australia now, Germany, France, Canada. I think I said Australia already. Guatemala, fucking Ecuador.
Wow.
Just all over the place. The Philippines. It's pretty cool.
And that is one cool thing about the size of YouTube and stuff like that, is you do get that international connection. That's really, really cool.
Audio too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm probably 25 to 35% of our actual views and listeners are on YouTube. The rest of it's different audio platforms. So we're on iTunes and Spotify.
Right. Yep.
Wherever you
I
stream
got
or
you
listen to
through a
podcasts.
podcast listening.
Yeah, wherever it is, I should be there. If I'm not on there, let me know.
I found you on Podcast Addict.
Really?
That good one.
It just most of those little ones source from one of the big ones like iTunes. So as long as you're on the big major 3 or 4, you're probably everywhere.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah.
I
haven't had a hard time finding much of anything.
Yeah.
Great program though.
Till you get into an exclusive Spotify only.
Oh yeah.
Those ones piss me off.
Yeah.
I hate having to go to a specific app to find your podcast.
It's
like
very
that seems
anti the entire idea of
Thank you.
podcasting.
Thank you. You just literally took the words out of my mouth.
Yeah, it's corporatizing the whole thing beyond ads and sponsorship, things like that, which have been around since the beginning.
Well, and ads and sponsorships make sense because you don't have a corporation paying you a salary.
Right.
And they survive off ads and sponsorships. So it makes sense that you have to do that part, right?
Ads
but when you sign an exclusive with Spotify or YouTube or Twitch or whatever, it's like now I can't just put you in my mix.
Right.
Now I have to go to that platform exclusively.
Mm-hmm.
And if the other people I'm down with, like pretty much every podcast I'm interested in has a video side to it.
Mm-hmm.
And ironically, here's the thing is if it doesn't have a video side to it, so if they're not also on YouTube,
right.
I'm not really that into it. It's very hard because I just want them to be in my mix wherever I'm at. So if I'm on Spotify and I'm in the mood for fucking, I'm like, you know what? I'm done listening to music. I want to listen to fucking podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
All the podcasts I want are on Spotify. But I know I'm going to be in an audio situation.
Right.
But then I'm on YouTube and I'm like, you know what? I'm in the mood for a podcast. I'm in the mood for XYZ podcast, whatever. Up. And all of a sudden I'm sitting there listening to it, but it's just like their logo, a static screen.
Yeah.
Like, no.
Right.
Like, I don't know. I'm just speaking as a listener and as a viewer. Like, I just want you on all the platforms. That's the one thing that frustrates me about Spotify is like I have a video podcast, but I can't have my video on Spotify because I don't have an exclusive.
Yep.
Like, so far, the only video podcasts on Spotify are the ones that they have exclusive rights to.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm technically on Spotify, but like, I don't know. It just seems dumb. Dude. It seems too convoluted.
Right. I can't believe
I should
YouTube
probably just quit.
tried to do YouTube music.
I should probably just quit the podcast.
Confusing.
It's getting too convoluted. We're just going to shut it down.
He's hanging it up.
This is
the
it.
Retirement episode.
This is it. This is the last episode,
Yeah.
guys. We're done.
He's been beaten down.
There's a reason.
by Spotify.
There's a reason we didn't have a sponsorship for this episode. This is the last one. We're hanging it up.
Yet another.
I didn't want to announce it.
Induced coma.
I didn't want to announce it. I didn't want to do the whole farewell thing. This is the last episode. Old friend. Chill episode.
It is episode 86. It would be a good one.
That's exactly. That's why we're doing
I
it.
got
We're 86 in the
86.
podcast.
Yep.
It's over. This is the last episode.
Good. Go out on the 86.
Yep. Nice even number. Yep. Been a great run, you guys. I appreciate you guys hanging out. On that note, we should wrap this up, actually. We've been going almost 2 hours.
Oh, wow. I had no idea. It's been great.
It's been fun, dude. It's been nice and chill, just like I thought it would be.
Yeah, absolutely.
We can still hang out after the podcast,
Sure.
but we should just wrap. There's a bunch of shit I want to talk to you about that I don't think we can talk about on the podcast. So yeah, dude, thank you guys. Appreciate it. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. I got to get back to the main screen. I've completely lost the ability to run my own podcast. Literally all I did is I took like one person canceled on me, right?
Oh.
Just, it happens. It's not a big deal.
Sure.
And then I moved somebody from a Monday to a Wednesday. So I went from Tuesday to Wednesday. So I went 8 total days. Completely forgot how to run my own podcast. That's all it took. 8 days and I completely became a buffoon. I apologize. Love you guys. Like, subscribe. Farewell episode 86. We're out. This podcast is done. Thank you guys. It's
Thanks
been
for
a
having
great
me on.
journey, but make sure you still like and subscribe. That's so stupid. It makes no sense. It contradicts it. I'm such a dumbass.
Okay, at
Hold on. Now I need to unmute that. Say that again.
At Paul J.F. Bowman on Twitter.
I didn't know you were trying to.
I'm not promoting. Just give
But
you
if
that.
you guys want to follow Paul,
Yeah.
say it one more time.
At Paul J.F. Bowman on Twitter and Instagram. And you can see maybe the occasional typo I can.
All right. Thanks, guys. Love you guys.